G'day, welcome to Sights and Stories, a global Aussie journey, the podcast where a qualified historian with a passion for travel and the past will take you to the world's most iconic destinations. Each episode, we will explore not just the sights, but the stories behind them. I want to give you expert historical knowledge and practical tips to assist your travel plans and along the way make your experiences much more memorable when you're at your destination. Today, we're going to continue a travel series in Japan. Let's take a look at arguably one of the most iconic bucket list items in Tokyo, the famous Senso-ji and Asakusa Shrine, two religious sites you should definitely visit when you're in the biggest city in the world, in Tokyo. During the podcast, if you want any questions asked, if you've got any of them out there, be sure to paste them into the stream chat, and I'll endeavour to answer all of your questions during the podcast. And I will stop at various times to make sure everyone has a chance to ask questions if they have any. So to start off with, I guess with Senso-ji, we need to look at the historical perspective. How far does the site go back to? And originally, the site was constructed in 628 CE, which is quite some time ago, when two brothers, apparently who were fishing in the Sumida River, caught a statue of Kannon, the goddess of mercy, out of the water. And from that, the original temple of Senso-ji was built in 645 CE. So this would make it one of the oldest temples in Tokyo itself. In 1590, Tokugawa Ieyasu designated that the temple should be a place where the prayers of the shogunate would be offered, and successive shoguns then paid their respects at the site, and the popularity of the Kannon became widespread during the Edo period. So it was really during the Tokugawa and Edo period that the site really took off, but like I said, it was constructed well and truly before that in 645 CE. The goddess, the Kannon, is known for being very compassionate, being responsible for relieving people's suffering. And if you have a look at the PowerPoint that I have online, you'll be able to see a couple of prints of what the site looked like during the Tokugawa and just after the Tokugawa period in the 1850s and the 1880s, where you can definitely see some of the structures, the architectural structures associated with Senso-ji today. In particular, the pagoda that I'll talk about a bit later on. So if you want to go onto YouTube and check out those pictures as I talk about the podcast, please feel free to do that. And it might give you some more insight into what we're talking about. So the original temple, like I said, was built in 645 CE. But it was unfortunately destroyed during the Second World War. Many of you will probably realise that Japan was firebombed and during the war, particularly towards the end, when the Allies wanted to get Japan to surrender. And so it was felt that they needed to take the war to the Japanese homelands. And as part of that, on March the 10th, 1945, the area of Asakusa was actually heavily bombed, as well as other parts of Tokyo, and unfortunately the Senso-ji was destroyed at that time. So the complex was rebuilt in 1958, and that is the one that you see today, the one that was built in 1958. So that makes it just around about 70 years of age. But the actual worship of the goddess of the Kannon has been going on for many centuries, of course. And it is still today arguably the most famous of all the Buddhist temples in Tokyo. Some 30 million people actually visit the site every year, making it one of, like I said, a bucket list item for people to go visit in Tokyo. When they think of famous shrines and temples to visit, Senso-ji comes up in everyone's list when they go to Tokyo. So let's take a walk through the site. Let's have a look at it a little bit. So when you go to Senso-ji, it's best to try to arrive when it first opens. That's when you're going to get the best pictures, because as I just said, 30 million people coming to the site during the year. You can imagine that every day there's lots of people that travel to Senso-ji. So you want to get there nice and early. It does open around about 6 a.m., but you don't have to get there right on 6 a.m. to get the best photos. But if you get there before 8 o'clock in the morning, you're definitely able to get a nice picture outside of the gateway, the main gate leading into the temple complex. It's open from around about 6 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The grounds itself are open 24 hours. But if you want to see the actual inside of Senso-ji, then that's the time that it's open. So when you first get to the site, the first thing you'll see is the famous Kaminari-mon or Thunder Gate. Okay, and the Thunder Gate was originally built in 942 CE. But it was then burnt down in a fire in 1865. So the current gate actually dates from 1960. It is an impressive 11.7 metres tall and 11.4 metres wide, and it contains the Shinto statues of Fujin, the god of wind, and Reijin, the goddess of thunder, to guard the temple from natural disasters. And you might be thinking, that's weird, isn't this a Buddhist complex? Why have we got Shinto gods at Senso-ji? It's a great mix, this temple complex, of the two religions. It was only during really the Meiji period where Shinto was and Buddhism were really divided in Japan. And that came as a result of the government at the time wanting to do that and making people basically turn back to revering the emperor. And it was felt that it was a way of unifying Japan, so Shinto was actually divided from Buddhism. But before that time, it was quite common to see the two religions kind of put together as such. And so this gateway is a good example of that, where you have basically Shinto statues at the front of it, but then if you go behind the gate, you'll actually see two more statues, and one is to the Buddhist god Tenru, and the other is to the Buddhist god Kinru. And they were basically put in there in 1978, both of those statues, to commemorate the 1350th anniversary of the first appearance of the canon at Asakusa. So you can see there the Shinto influence at the front of the gate and the Buddhist influence at the back of the gate in terms of the statues. The giant red lantern, which lots of people get photos of, they basically stand underneath it and get photos underneath the gate. That lantern is 3.9 metres tall and 3.3 metres wide, so it's quite an impressive lantern. So that's where most people traditionally get their photos, where they stand underneath the lantern and they get a nice photo next to the Thunder Gate. Before you go up into the temple complex, it's always worth looking down the street at this point. So before you go through the gate, just look down the street and you should be able to see Tokyo Skytree. That is Tokyo's tallest observation tower, and you'll be able to see that, and also the so-called Golden Poo, which is a huge piece of art which adorns the headquarters of the famous Japanese beer company Usahi. So you can take a photo of them for fun. Just walk across a pedestrian crossing. If you're there early enough in the morning, there probably won't be any traffic, and you'll be able to take a nice picture of the Tokyo Skytree from the main street before you walk through the temple complex. So it's always a good thing to do. Somebody's asked, what is the best time of year to come to the temple complex? The temple complex, it's always best to, it's nice you can go any time of the year. It's not going to be impacted. But it's best to go, during a nice sunny day, I guess, because you'll be able to get nicer photos. But it doesn't really matter what time of year you go, you'll be able to enjoy the site. So whether it's summer, winter, autumn, spring, whatever time of the year, Senso-ji is always a great place to visit. And someone's also asked about when was the Tokyo Skytree constructed. It was constructed around 2012 from memory. So that's quite a recent construction, and it actually is responsible for sending out the digital broadcast for TV throughout the city. Before that time, they used an analog broadcast that was used from the Tokyo Tower, which is also in a very famous observation deck in Tokyo, the famous red and, well, not red, they say international orange and white coloured tower. I've actually featured that one on a previous podcast, so if you want to learn more about the Tokyo Tower, have a look at one of my other podcasts and I talk all about that. And I will talk about Tokyo Skytree in a future podcast as well, about that tower. But moving on, you walk through the gateway. Okay, you're going to go through the Thunder Gate, and once you pass through that gate, you're actually going to come to a very famous shopping street. It's called Nakamichi Street, and here you'll see about 90 shops opening at around about 9 o'clock. And what you'll see is you'll find that there's a lot of souvenir shops, a lot of street food being sold that you can buy before you get to Senso-ji's main hall. So it's always worth a nice little stroll through that street. It's quite an iconic kind of shopping street that people. It's part of the experience, I guess. If you get there before 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll be able to see some of the shutters closed. And with the shutters closed, you'll be able to see some pretty impressive Japanese art on the shutters. So if you want to check out, if you're a bit of an art buff and you want to see some artistic designs, go before 9 o'clock or after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you'll be able to see the shutters starting to come down, and you'll be able to see some of that art. If you want to see some examples, again, on my PowerPoint, you'll be able to see some pictures of some of the shops open and the shutters down. So you'll get an impression of that. But basically, even though the goods here are known to be a little bit more pricey than other places in Tokyo, being one of the major tourist sites in the city, it's basically a rite of passage. Most tourists buy something from Nakamichi shopping street. So inevitably you'll find something, whether it's something to eat or whether it's a souvenir, you'll be able to pick up something there for sure. The street is actually one of the oldest shopping streets in Tokyo, and it dates back to the early Edo period. Some of the shops can actually trace their origins back to the 17th century. So that means that they've been passed through the family from generation to generation from the 1600s all the way to today. Quite an impressive history. So yeah, check that one out as you're walking up to Senso-ji. And then once you pass Nakamichi Street, you should get into another impressive gateway called the Hosomon, or the Neomon Gate. It was originally built in 942 before being improved under the rule of the Tokugawa Ieyasu. Oh no, not Ieyasu, actually it was Emitsu in 1649. And basically it's a two-story gate, quite impressive. It was destroyed during World War II, so it was rebuilt. The original had to be rebuilt. It was rebuilt in 1964, and it's about just over 22, nearly 23 meters tall and 21 meters wide. And it only has two statues representing Neo, which are two muscular gardens which are meant to protect Buddha, and that's why it's sometimes given the name of Neomon Gate rather than Hosomon Gate. Okay, so it's just after the protectors that are located inside the gateway leading through to the main hall. So this is a very impressive gate. A lot of people again get pictures here. Unlike the first gate that you walk through, you will see three lanterns here, not one but three lanterns. One of them will be the Choshin, or the red lantern, that is about 3.75 meters tall and 2.7 meters in diameter. But you'll also see two gold-looking lanterns as well to the side of that one. So on the reverse side of the gate, once you see the guardians to the gate, you'll also see on the reverse side a traditional straw sandals. They're called Raraji. They are around about 4.5 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. That is the footwear that's usually worn by Buddhist monks in Japan, and they were once the informal sort of outdoor footwear worn by commoners. They were never worn with a kimono, for instance, so worn with ordinary clothes by the commoners. And I suppose it's just a link back to the Buddhist monks. So you'll be able to see that on the reverse side of the gate. And then once you get through that gateway, you're then going to reach basically the main hall, okay, which is called the Kanondo, okay, and it was originally built by Tokugawa Ieyasu, and it was designated as a national treasure despite being destroyed in World War II, like all the other parts of the complex that we've spoken about so far. It contains the Buddha Cannon, which sits inside a miniature temple in the middle of the inner sanctum. When you walk up the stairs into the main hall, you'll be able to see that. The roof, actually, once you go into the main hall, you make your way into it, have a look at the roof on top, because there's some really impressive Japanese artwork on the roof. There's a large dragon called Ryu Nozu, which is a protector of the cannon, and you've also got angels and pictures of lotus flowers on top as well. So yes, somebody's just asked, is the whole building available to the public? Absolutely, it's a place of worship, so anyone can walk up to the Senso-ji and enter the hall, as long as it's during the opening hours, like I said before, of 6 a.m. through to 5 p.m. After that time or before that time, it would be closed. So you've got to make sure you get there during that time to be able to experience the main hall. That's basically what you see with the complex. You've got those two gateways, the shopping street and the main hall. But there's one other thing that is really impressive about the Senso-ji complex, and that's to the side of the actual hall, you'll see this wonderful 5-storied pagoda. It was originally built in 942. Once again, it was Tokugawa Iemitsu who had it rebuilt, but it burnt down during the fireboming raid of World War II, like I mentioned before, in 1945, the original one. So they actually raised money from from the population of Japan. Basically, huge amount of people donated money to get the pagoda rebuilt, and it was built back in 1973 from the donations of Buddhist believers around the country. Supposedly, Buddha's ashes reside on the top floor. They were given as a gift, actually, from the Royal Temple of Sri Lanka and placed within the pagoda. So it was a gift from one country to another. Unfortunately, this is one part of the complex where you cannot access. This can only be accessed 3 times a year by people who have got special permission to enter the pagoda. It's really off limits to tourists. So while you can definitely take in the magnificence of the structure from the outside, you can't actually go inside the pagoda itself. It stands at 53 meters tall. And you might be asking, well, is this the tallest pagoda in Japan? Is this how does this stack up against other pagodas that you see in the country? It is definitely one of the biggest in the country, but it is not actually the biggest. If you want to see the tallest pagoda in Japan, you actually have to go to Kyoto, and you have to go to the Toji Pagoda, which stands at 55 meters tall. So it's about 2 meters taller than the one that you can see at Senso-ji. But nevertheless, it's such an impressive structure to go and see and to take photos of. So definitely check that out. So you can see that the Senso-ji is a magnificent site in its own right to go and visit, and there's lots of things to see while you're there. But it's not the only structure which I'd check out, and a lot of people forget to check out some other aspects of the complex. If you go to the right-hand side of the main hall, you're going to find the Yagoda Hall. And the Yagoda Hall contains 8 Buddhas that basically protect 1 or 2 animals of the Chinese zodiac. If you want to check out some Buddhas responsible for looking after your birth month, this is a place to go to. And also, just next to it, there's an outstanding little beautiful garden that you can get some pictures with that contains koi fish, a waterfall, and a traditional miniature stone bridge next to it. And in autumn, it has spectacular colours, which you'll be able to again see on the PowerPoint on YouTube if you want to go check them out. It's a wonderful part of the temple complex not to be missed. So have a look at the Yagoda Hall, okay, to the right-hand side, and you should be able to see a wonderful little garden where you can take some pictures and relax for a few minutes amongst the hustle and bustle of Nakamisi Street and all the tourists making their way into the main hall of Senso-ji. Also to the side of the Yugoda Hall, you also have the Owashimado Hall, which temporarily served as the main hall after World War II before the current main hall was built. So if you want to have a look at, the transitionary main hall between World War II and the current main hall being built, you can do that as well. So they're to the right-hand side, like I said, of Senso-ji. But there is one other place that you must check out before you leave, okay? And that is the Asakusa Shrine. Okay, the Asakusa Shrine, I've seen a lot of tourists, they just walk up to Senso-ji, they take the pictures, they walk back down Nakamisi Street, and they forget about the little shrine that is located right next to Senso-ji. Okay, on the other side, so not the Yugoda Hall side, but on the other side of the temple, you will find the Asakusa Shrine. And the Asakusa Shrine is a wonderful place to visit because it is all original. So unlike the Senso-ji that was destroyed during World War II, the Asakusa Shrine is original. It survived the firebombing attacks. So you are going to see one of the oldest shrines, intact shrines in Tokyo, because most of Tokyo was destroyed during the war. So definitely check this one out. You basically enter through a torii gate, and that will lead you into the little temple complex, the little shrine complex itself. It has actually been designated as an important cultural property by the Japanese government. It dates back to 1649, so it was built during the reign of the shogun Tokugawa Iemitsu. Okay, so it was not around when Senso-ji was first worshipped in the 600s CE, but it was built during the Tokugawa period. And it is dedicated to the founders of Senso-ji, who are considered kami or gods at that shrine. So, like I said, it survived the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923. It survived the World War II bombings, and it is there for you to take in. So, as far as the features of it are concerned, behind the stone torii gate, which is where you first walk in, you'll see some examples of kamenu, which is basically an imaginary beast. They're like lion dogs who were guardians and messengers for the deities at Asuka Shrine. So they are there to take a picture of as you first walk past the torii gate. You'll then see the actual shrine. And inside the shrine itself, there are images of sacred beasts such as Hiryu, who presides over the water and is represented with a body of fish and wings. There is also Kirin, with a body of a deer, the head of a wolf, the tail of a cow, legs of a horse, and it has horns. So these imaginary beasts are sacred beasts you can see on the in the inner shrine of the complex. Like I said before, it was built to the founders of Senso-ji, the two fishermen who found the cannon, and the landlord who also consecrated the first temple on the site. So that's who it's dedicated to. And it shows, because of its location right next to Senso-ji, again it shows how Shinto and Buddhism were closely related, right up until the Meiji government period, which ordered the separation in 1868. Most people go there today to pray for happiness for their family, for protection against automobile accidents, success in business, good health, or to pass exams. That's traditionally what people go to this shrine for, they hope that the kami that are there, the gods that are there, will grant them those things. Also, while you're at the site, go check out, there's a wonderful little pair of guardian dogs under a red umbrella to the side of the shrine. Definitely have a look at these little statues. Due to their closeness, because they're so close together, visiting them is said to bring good marriage, and it's also meant to bring about fulfillment in love and harmony between married couples. So you'll often see married couples or boyfriend, girlfriends kind of going up to there and saying a quick prayer next to those statues. So check out them and take a quick little picture of them. The annual festival at the shrine is held in May, and that brings 2 million people to Asakusa Shrine. So that just gives you an idea of how important this shrine is to the people of Tokyo. So the Asakusa Shrine, don't forget to visit that one. A lot of people, like I said, go to Senso-ji, but they forget about the Asakusa Shrine, which is right next door. And again, yes, the whole building, there's a question there, is the whole building available to the public? Yes, it is. You can definitely check out, walk through without any restrictions and check out Asakusa Shrine. So definitely do that. And there's one other place to also make sure you visit before you leave any of the temple complex at Senso-ji and Asakusa Shrine, and that is the last gateway. It's called the Nitonmon Gate. Okay, and as you exit the Asakusa Shrine, it'll be on your left-hand side. The Nitonmon Gate was originally built in 1618 to protect Senso-ji. It contains guardians again, protective deities, called Zokoten and Jikokuten, which means that those two gods actually, or guardians, give the name of the gate. And the gate basically means the gate of the 210. Okay, so Zokoten and Jikokuten. Okay, so that's where it gets its name from. So check out that gateway as well before you leave the temple complex. So as you can see, the site is great. It's a great place to go and get a sense of both Buddhism and Shinto in the one location. So that's what makes it really a bucket list item when you're going to Japan, because it's one thing to see the excitement of the city and all those sort of things, like go to Shibuya Crossing and go up to Shinjuku and check out the lights and the Godzilla head and all that sort of stuff, and go up some towers and like Tokyo Tower, Skytree that I mentioned before. Go to Team Labs, which I know is very popular within Tokyo. But really, if you want to get a full sense of Japanese culture, you have to go and check out some of their shrines and temples. And Senso-ji is a great place to check out both Buddhism and Shinto in the one location. It's also a great place to pick up souvenirs at Nakamichi, which we spoke about, the shopping street there. And there's also, to the sides of the complex, there's some great little shopping streets as well, where you can pick up plenty of food. The area is renowned for great melon pan, which is a type of bread, a soft bread, a sugared sort of bread that people love eating. And I definitely have a go at picking that up. There's a few shops that sell that in that area. And they also sell matcha products everywhere, particularly ice cream in the hotter months. You'll be able to pick up some matcha ice cream down the side streets. So check out the side streets. You can even get a rickshaw ride if you want to in the area. They're parked just outside of Senso-ji on the main street. They usually don't start arriving until the shops open at around about 9 o'clock onwards. So, but if you want a ride, they'll take you all the way from Senso-ji to Skytree and back again if you want. So they give you a real sense of the area if you want to do that. There's also companies around the place that offer traditional tea ceremonies and the wearing of kimonos. So you will see people walking around in kimonos around Senso-ji because they've hired them, and they've walked around to get some photos next to some traditional Shinto and Buddhist locations. So you'll see that as well. And of course, just a stone's throw away, you can walk down the main street and you can make your way to Tokyo Skytree, the tallest observation tower in Tokyo. So there's plenty to do in this area. It's definitely one to check out. Senso-ji and Asakusa Shrine. They're magnificent places to go to. So I'm going to stop now, and I'll just give people a chance to ask any questions that they might have on Senso-ji and on what we've spoken about so far. I'll just see if there's anything out there. A common question I get concerning this site is, how long would you spend at the site? Look, you have to give yourself at least a couple of hours. And it might seem like a long bit of time, but It's not just about checking out the temple and the shrine. You might not be Buddhist or follow Shinto religion, and you might think, oh, I'll get through those things pretty quick and take a few photos and get out of there. But like I said before, Nakamisi Street, the shopping street, has got some incredible souvenirs and street foods that you can consume. So it's not uncommon for people to take at least a couple of hours when they're visiting this site. Somebody was asking, is there any other countries or cities you would look at, that I'm going to look at in the future? Definitely. In terms of Japan, I'm going to go to another couple of sites very soon. I'll be heading over to Osaka and also to Kyoto, Hiroshima, Nara. We'll check out those sites. Himeji. We'll have a look at all those sites in due time. I'm planning on doing that. And as well as Japan, I plan on doing a series on the United States of America and also Canada. And also heading over to Europe, particularly Western Europe, countries like France, the UK, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Spain, those sort of countries. So yeah, definitely we'll be checking out all of those, and my future podcasts will feature different areas of the world. But I thought Japan was a great place to start because I know there's a lot of people out there traveling to this country at the moment. So I thought this one would be an interesting place to start in the world. Are there any other questions out there that people have? Another one I get asked quite common is it good to take children to this site? Is it a place for the whole family? Will they enjoy it? My answer is definitely yes. You want to give children a sense of culture when they're in Japan. Like I said before, it's not just about the Disneys and the going to team labs and doing fun things like that, which are all awesome, and I definitely take children too. But I think there's also a chance to open their eyes up to different cultures. If you're not a Buddhist or Shinto believer, it's a good way of getting a sense of traditional Japan. So yes, and also don't forget the street foods. I think the children will love the matcha ice cream or the other flavoured ice creams that are there, and the melon pan. There's plenty of things to do along at this site, as well as a bit of shopping at Nakamisi Street. I'm sure they'd find a souvenir that they like. So children, definitely take children to the site. As I said before, the best time to visit would be first thing in the morning if you want to get some great photos without all the crowds. If you want to see the shutters down and get a sense of those Japanese art on the shutters, you have to go before 9 o'clock in the morning to get pictures of them, or go afternoon, go after 5, 6 o'clock at night. At night, by the way, Senso-ji is lit up. So if you want to get some nice night photos with a Japanese Buddhist temple, it's a great place to go at night and get some photos. Not as many people around because Nakamisi Street will be closed, so you'll be able to get some nice photos at that time. So if you're someone who's a photographer and like to get some night shots, it's definitely a place to check out as well. But I would definitely arrive in the morning. Around lunchtime, it's going to be full. Senso-ji is full no matter what time of year. Like I said before, 30 million visitors a year gives you a sense of how many people will end up being there by lunchtime and early afternoon. So try to get there in the morning. Another one I get asked quite often is, does it cost anything to go to Senso-ji and Asakusa Shrine? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't cost you anything to go to the site. Of course, if you want to buy a souvenir or some street food, it's going to cost you some money down Nakamisi Street. And if you want to go for a rickshaw ride or whatever. But apart from that, you can actually enjoy the temple grounds for free. So if you're someone who's budget conscious and you want to get a sense of traditional Japan without spending a fortune, Senso-ji, definitely a place to visit. Okay, so yeah, there's you can definitely see why this is a site you should go to when you're in Japan. Are there any other questions out there that people would like me to answer at this stage? Doesn't look like there's many. I think I've answered most of the questions looking at what I can see in the chat. If you think of any others down the track, be sure to post them, and I will endeavour to answer all of those questions. But what I've done is tried to give you a really good insight into Senso-ji and why it's such a great place to visit. Like I said before, it's a great example of how Shinto and Buddhism were merged together in traditional Japan. There's a question there. Is it easy to get around for people with mobility difficulties? Yes, it is easy to get around. You can actually you can actually go in a wheelchair from the front gates, from Thunder Gate, all the way through to the main hall without hitting any stairs. So it's great for that. It's nice and flat. It's not hilly. The site itself is quite flat. You can go down Nakamisi Street. There's no steps in terms of that. The only area that you're going to encounter steps at is actually getting into the main hall itself. That might present mobility issues if you want to get into the main hall itself. But the actual temple complex, you can see the main hall. You can virtually go right up to it and get some nice photos of it without being impacted from walking upstairs. And the Asakusa Shrine, you can go straight inside of that. There's no stairs whatsoever. Again, it's just inside the actual the main hall that you might have problems getting into. Somebody's asked, how tall is the temple? Well, the pagoda, like I said before, is about 53 meters tall. That is the tallest part of the temple complex. The actual hall itself, the Kanondo, it's just over around about 20 meters tall, just like the gate that precedes it, which is about 22.7 meters tall. So with the Kanondo Hall, if you take out the steps leading up to it, it's roughly the same size, the same height. So yeah, it's just over 20 odd meters. Yeah, somebody just said the photo on the right corner of my slide, which must means they're looking at the YouTube slide, looks really tall. And yeah, it is really tall. Look, they're impressive. Anything over 20 meters tall is quite impressive when you walk up to it. It's taller than a traditional building or somewhere where people live in. It's not skyscraper size, but with the woodwork and the decoration and the artwork that's involved in it, it's very impressive. Yeah, so definitely worth checking out. And so while, the pagoda itself, I said, 53 meters tall, it's only 2 meters short of the tallest pagoda in Japan. So it's definitely worth seeing. And that is quite impressive to look at. So yeah, I definitely think, the pictures on the YouTube might give the impression that it's really, really tall. It's not as tall as the pagoda. It's about half the size of the pagoda. The pagoda is impressive, quite impressive indeed. Any other questions out there? You might be wondering, is it easy to get food around there? Like if I've mentioned street foods, but is it okay to get like lunch or dinner close to the site? Asakusa is a wonderful place to get food. You can go to fancy restaurants. You can go to your takeaways like your McDonald's and your KFCs. They're not far away as well. So there's plenty to eat just around the corner, which also makes this a great location to visit. There's also a Sanrio shop. So if you've got kids that are into all those characters, there is one just down the street from the Senso-ji complex that you can go and visit. I know a lot of young kids and not so young kids are fascinated by the characters from Sanrio, so you can go check that out as well. So yeah, the site really has everything going for it. And like I said, that's why you need to spend at least a couple of hours here. I'd say half a day, 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, and you'll be able to soak it all in and really enjoy yourself. And you don't have to break the bank to do it. So it's a really good budget-friendly part of the city to visit and to experience traditional Japan in a big city like Tokyo. So definitely, check it out. And like I said before, if you want to see some of the photos some of the places I've been talking about, please check out the YouTube, which has plenty of pictures accompanying each of those architectural features of the complexes. So I hope the episode that I've just given you, this podcast, has been able to give you a fascinating insight into Senso-ji, Nakamisi Street, and also the Asakusa Shrine. It's a wonderful blend of history, showing both Buddhism and Shinto in one location. It has its history all the way back to 600s CE and into the Tokugawa period. Unfortunately, most of the site was firebombed during World War II, but as I said before, the Asakusa Shrine is totally original and one of the few sites you can see in Tokyo that was not destroyed by the firebombing. So, well worth checking out. If you want to see some pictures of the sites, like I said, check out the YouTube video that I've got attached to the podcast. Don't be scared to also press the follow button. This will help you connect with future podcasts and not miss out on anything. It also means it gives me a bit of feedback knowing that I'm doing something right, and gives me some encouragement to continue exploring the world's sites with everyone. So please make sure you follow me if you're listening out there. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to post them. Be sure to catch my next episode on another exciting part of Tokyo as I endeavour to take you through some parts of Japan. Next time, I think what we'll do is we'll be making our way to explore one of the major entertainment districts of Tokyo. I want to take you to a place where people like to go see exciting, fun things. So, if you want to tune into the next podcast, you'll find out all about that. Thank you to the people who have posted some nice things on the chat about how they've enjoyed the podcast. It's really great to hear. So until my next podcast, I wish you all well and safe travels to those who are abroad. Catch you later, mate.